Hey everybody, it's Brian here with another video for my 52 project, and as you can tell from the title of this week's video, Am I Racist? It's not going to be an easy discussion, and I actually want to talk about it for 2 weeks because I think it's fairly important, and I want you to ask yourself that question, am I racist? And try to give yourself an honest answer. For me, it started last week. I'm in class with these students from China. I teach in the mornings. I teach students from China, 3 students, and one of them was in grade 7. And so I'm teaching her this lesson, and I'll actually show you a picture, the picture that we were looking at from this National Geographic book. I'll put it up here. It's this Aboriginal art in Australia inside this cave. And in the description of the picture, it uses the word Aborigines, which is a new word for my students. So down below, there's some definitions, and you can see in the definition there that Aborigines are the people that were in Australia before the Europeans came, which brought up this discussion about one group of people, one race, coming in and doing some real damage to some people that are already there, a different race. And so I asked her if she had any examples that she knew of about that. And she brought up World War II, where the Japanese invaded China and did I was curious, how she would describe it and what her education system in China would tell her about that situation. And she used fairly gentle words to describe what was, anything but gentle. It was an atrocity, human experimentation and torture and documenting it. And it was just, pure evil as I would describe it. But it's a very clear example of one race thinking that another race is subhuman and justifying some horrible treatment of that race because they feel that they're not equal as far as their humanity. So we continued on with these examples. We talked about the Civil War in the United States, where there's a war that's fought over this concept where one race thinks another race is not equal, they're subhuman, and actually fighting in Congress to set up laws that would continually keep these people down. And so after we got through with the really bad cases, we started getting into more personal, is there anything that you can think of? And she brought up the difference between boys and girls, which led us to discuss, women's rights and how there was a time when women couldn't vote and men could. And just that concept where you have denied or stripped away the rights of another human, it kind of automatically says they are less of a human than what you are. Which led us to talk about interracial marriage, which was illegal at one point. And so you're saying to this couple, to these people, you do not have the same rights as I do in my marriage relationship. You are on a different level of humanity than I am. Isn't that strange? And then it leads me to think of gay marriage, where you're saying exactly the same thing, that if you deny these people rights, and I don't know how you vote, I don't know what your politics and your morals say to you, but if you say that you deserve less rights than I have, it automatically means the bottom line is you are subhuman compared to me. And that is an unloving feeling. That is an unjust and an ashamed feeling. Anyway, that was a big lesson that I took away, and it's all wrapped up in this topic of racism, where I could say to myself, man, you've got some growth to do here. Anyway, it was a valuable lesson for me, but that was just the start of it, right? Because we kept talking about it, and as we were sharing any kind of personal stories about racism, I had to talk about Canada, where you've got, the white people from Europe, Europeans moving in, settling and setting up their colonies, and finding the First Nations people that are here, and again, treating them like livestock and stripping away their rights and moving them around and starting the schools, the residential schools, where we are again trying to tear away their very culture. It's a pure example of that exact thing, where you are treating another race as subhuman. And as I'm explaining this to my student, and I'm talking about the wrong that was done, the guilt that is there, and being sorry about it, my student in grade 7 started to defend me. You don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to feel sorry. You didn't do that. You don't think that way. You didn't treat those people that in that bad, evil way. You know, it was quite the thing. And we didn't get to finish the lesson. The lesson ended, but and we're going to talk about it more next week, but it didn't end for me, that lesson. I've been thinking about it since then. And our country's young. We're a young nation, and there's people that went through that treatment, those residential schools, for example. They're still alive, and they're talking about it in their own families. And so some of those people and their children are coming to my class. And just the simple physical layout of my class could remind them of the physical layout of a class in a residential school. And so you can see how this is a real thing. This is a raw wound. And so I am part of it, even though, okay, fine, I may not be guilty of doing some horrible things to people, but here's what it is. I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to just think about the solution. I want to be part of the solution, which automatically means I'm connected with the past. I have to admit to it and talk about it and address it. And so I'm connected to it, which led me to the next step, which is a flat-out question. Am I racist? So I had to look up the definition of that word. I'll try and put it up here. But from what I read, racism or a racist is someone that thinks or feels or acts or shows some kind of discrimination. Discrimination is any kind of unjust action where I might treat somebody different than I would treat a different race. Right? I'm treating them different because of their race. So it's an unjust treatment. And the next word is prejudice, which means prejudging. So I'm prejudging somebody and letting my thoughts and actions guide my prejudging. And so when I think of those two words, treating somebody different or discriminating and prejudging them, I am racist. I do that. And I think oftentimes when we think of racism, it's like a switch. I am racist or I'm not racist. And everybody wants, or most people want to switch it to off. I'm not racist. But it's not a light switch. And so I took some training, diversity and culture training, where we talked about this subject. It's not a light switch. It's a continuum. And I'm on that continuum. And I want to talk about that continuum next week. But for now, I realize that I am in some degree racist and prejudice. I see it. I can see it happening to me. I'll have a new class, a brand new class, and these are adults, and I'll see the people from different places around the world, Eastern Europe, Africa, China, India, and then people, First Nations people. And I'll even see people that don't live in the city. They're from Canada, but they're from the country. It's funny. And I will think about past things that have happened to me, and my mind goes to the bad things, and I bring those bad things to the front of my mind, and I apply them to the groups as a warning. These people could be like this, and these people could be like this, and it's terrible, right? It's like these people, they might try and bribe you, because it's happened, right? They might try and bribe you. These people, they could lie to you. They often lie. These people, they're going to cheat on their assignments. They're going to cheat and plagiarize. And these people, around harvest time, they're going to miss a bunch of your classes, and I mean, that's a funny example, right? But it's still true that I'm applying this prejudice to groups of people, and I do it, and it's, I'm ashamed of it, but this is where the education comes in. The more I understand about the other cultures, the more I can wash my mind clean of the racism and prejudice that is there, and it happens, and it's like when I get educated, it feels empowering to learn. You're like, oh, that's why it's like this, and then to be able to talk about it, it removes some of that racism and prejudice, and it actually makes me feel stronger, like I'm literally growing and getting stronger. So I'm going to talk about some of those things in next week's video. So hopefully this is making sense to you, and I hope you can also ask yourself, am I racist? And give yourself an honest answer. And we'll talk about it more next week. Thanks for listening.